Hello friends. In contemporary times, anxiety has become a household name. Anxiety in today's world revolves around work, money, family, life, health, and other crucial issues that demand a person's attention.
Disclaimer. This video contains information on homeopathic remedy. The purpose of creating this video is to spread information and knowledge about this remedy. We strongly discourage any self-consumption of medicine without a qualified doctor's consultation.
Hello and welcome to another video on Rubric by visual designers. Myself Dr. Dimple Dalal. We have developed this video around emotion, anxiety and the prominent remedies associated with this rubric. First, we will try to define it psychologically and then look at it from homeopathic viewpoint in form of rubrics. So let's begin with the first and most logical question. What is anxiety? The American Psychological Association defines anxiety as a normal and often healthy emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts and physical changes like increased blood pressure. It is a feeling of uneasiness and worry, usually generalized and unfocused as an overreaction to a situation that is only subjectively seen as menacing. It includes subjectively unpleasant feelings of dread over anticipated events. Anxiety is often accompanied by restlessness, fatigue, problems in concentration, nail biting, wide open eyes, trembling, palpitation and sweating. While anxiety can cause distress, it is not always a medical condition. When an individual faces potentially harmful or worrying triggers, feelings of anxiety are not only normal but necessary for survival. The nervous feeling before an important life event or during a difficult situation is a natural echo of the original fight or flight reaction. It can still be essential to survival. Anxiety about being hit by a car when crossing the street, for example, means that a person will instinctively look both ways to avoid danger. However, when a person regularly feels disproportionate levels of anxiety, it might become a medical disorder. Anxiety happens when something is unknown. This is very characteristic of anxiety. There is a constant feeling that something will go wrong or something bad will happen in one's life. It can be about anything, like it can be about work, family, health, etc. The person is anticipating something wrong but is not clear about what exactly. In any given situation, a person is constantly thinking about what are the wrong things that can happen. These were the key points for anxiety as an emotion through a psychological point of view. Now let's turn towards homeopathic point of view. In homeopathy, mind rubric study is an important element for case taking. Rubrics in homeopathy guide how a particular symptom can vary across various remedies. For instance, anxiety of arsenic personality would be significantly different from the anxiety of Calcarea carb. This is the subject for the remaining of this episode. We have referred Kent's repertory for rubrics. It is important to note here that in repertory one may find another term closely related to anxiety, and that is fear. So let's first differentiate between anxiety and fear. Anxiety is a generalized response to an unknown threat or internal conflict, whereas fear is focused on known external danger. Fear and anxiety can be differentiated into four domains: duration of emotional experience, temporal focus, specificity of threat, and motivated direction. Fear is short-lived, present focused, geared towards a specific threat and facilitating escape from threat. Anxiety, on the other hand, is long-acting, future-focused, broadly focused towards a diffuse threat or there is uncertainty of the threat, and promoting excessive caution while approaching a potential threat and interferes with constructive coping. For example, suppose you are walking home from work. You are alone and it is dark outside. You hear rustling in the bushes and see a dark figure. There is a clear and present danger. It is immediate, real and definite. You are experiencing fear. Suppose you are walking down the same street. This time it is dusk. There isn't any sound coming from the bushes and the only people you see is a family walking with their dog ahead of you. Even so, you start worry that something bad is going to happen. You are experiencing anxiety. Nothing has happened that would signal any danger. Your reaction is from the possibility of danger. With this background, let's step into the rubric anxiety as seen in prominent constitutional remedies. We have taken a cluster of 8 remedies which are covered under rubric anxiety. To better distinguish these remedies, we have tried to organize the discussion under 4 heads: the basic nature of the personality, why there is anxiety, anxiety about what, and behavior when anxious. So let's start with the first remedy, alumina. Alumina is the one who is mentally unstable. The basic nature that the alumina has is usually of confusion. For them, making clear thinking is impossible. Alumina's mental confusion leads to incapacity of making decisions. Alumina is prone to powerful emotions and a very characteristic impulse to kill themselves when they see a knife or other sharp object. The mental and emotional instability of alumina makes them prone to anxiety. Given alumina's scattered mental process, even little tasks like writing a thank you note can generate anxiety, and alumina can be thrown into a panic by any change in their surrounding or their daily routine. There is usually a fear of insanity, and related to this is a fear of succumbing to the suicidal or homicidal impulses. There is fear of meeting people, especially group of people. Alumina has anxiety about future. They feel that some evil is going to happen. Alumina's anxiety often leads to insomnia. They will lie awake at night, obsessively worrying about how they will cope with the next day or with some anticipated ordeal in the near future. Alumina tends to become hurried when they are anxious. This is usually an aimless hurry in which very little is achieved since the mind is so scattered. The more they hurry, the less they are able to cope, and so a vicious circle sets in. Alumina's hurriedness is often accompanied by feeling of wanting to get away, to escape, hoping that things will be better, although they have no idea where they want to go to. We also find alumina in fear rubric. Second is arsenic. Arsenic individuals are self-confident, self-disciplined, fastidious, cautious, and in control of their life, and can absorb a lot of stress before their defense mechanism break down. It is only when life has dealt arsenicum a few heavy blows that they begin to fall prey to anxiety in a big way. Under continued stress, arsenicum is liable to develop anxiety because now they can no longer cope with stress. They develop anxiety about finances being running out, about their health or illness, or they become anxious about just anything. For example, anxiety when alone, anxiety on waking, etc. Arsenic individuals ceases to function rationally when they become anxious. They become restless, extremely agitated, and cannot keep still for a moment. They are very hard to reassure. We also find arsenic in fear rubric. Third is Calcarea carb. Calcarea lacks stamina both physically and mentally. Calcarea's principal concern is security. They tend to be very concerned with material security and familiarity. Calcarea tends to be anxious when they have to face challenges or take new responsibilities. They develop anxiety about unfamiliar things or unfamiliar routine or unfamiliar person. They worry without cause about future, what might happen to them in material sense. They fear that something will happen. Calcarea fear challenges. In general, it is the little things which worry Calcarea and unlikely future calamities. When Calcarea does take on a new responsibility, the fear of being unable to cope can give rise to general apprehension and all manner of irrational fears. The anxious Calcarea appreciates reassurance and usually manages to regain some perspective before long. It is unusual for Calcarea to suffer from the panic attack and long-term anxiety problems. We also find Calcarea in fear rubric. Fourth is Causticum. Causticum has a deep empathy for the suffering of others. There is a deeply felt sense of justice in them, and they take concrete actions to try and eliminate that injustice from community. They come across as a serious, intelligent, objective and human, and this impression leads one to expect such an individual to have trouble with anxiety. Being anxious is usually becomes a problem after years of stress, particularly as Causticum is growing old. Old age finds a lot of Causticums becoming more anxious and more withdrawn. The idealism of their youth is fading, and with it goes their self-confidence and their mental clarity. Very often, the elderly Causticum becomes more anxious after the death of their spouse. The spouse was a steadying influence for Causticums. One of the most characteristic form of anxiety that Causticum suffers from is a sense of dread that something awful will happen. It is as if all the years of watching terrible things happen in society and being unable to change them produces general expectation of disaster. This fear may take specific form as a fear that something will happen to himself or his family. It may also lead to fear of death. After losing their spouse, Causticum may feel afraid when alone at night. They have anxiety before falling asleep and may develop completely unrealistic fears, such as that they are going to be evicted or that they have cancer when actually they do not. They become very sensitive to the slightest adverse influence, such as excessive noise, slightest bad news, and little things set their nerves off, resulting in trembling, agitation, and a mild state of panic. After losing their spouse, Causticum falls prey to foolish anxiety and ever-increasing confusion. We also find Causticum in fear rubric. Fifth is carb. Kali people come across as responsible, serious and conventional. The first impression that one gets of carb person is a certain formality, a stiffness that reveals a lack of relaxation of body and mind. They resist the unapproved and the unfamiliar things by doggedly sticking to the books. This mental rigidity of Kali leads to an inability or unwillingness to adapt general rules to specific circumstances. Kali tries to avoid trouble by sticking to tried and tested formulae, be they the written laws, religious codes, professional protocols, or the values handed down by the forebears. Kalis are very susceptible to public opinion and to any threats to their own position. They are generally very reluctant to admit their weakness. The rigid mental control of Kali is both a result of insecurity and a source of further anxiety. Since the more rigid the person becomes, the more likely it is that their brittle defenses will be broken by some unforeseen circumstances. Kali people generally manage to hide most of their anxiety for a long time, often for the whole life. Sometimes, however, they do suffer a breakdown. This is especially likely to occur after the loss of some important source of security, such as their job or their partner. If Kali person does break down, there is intense anxiety, especially when alone and at night. Kali's insecurity is focused primarily on material plane and manifesting as a fear of illness, fear of death, fear of poverty and loss of social favor. During the period of anxiety, Kali individuals become restless, irritable and hypersensitive to noise, to physical discomfort and to being touched. The anxiety is felt in stomach. Even when anxiety is intense, Kali may give the impression that he is in control and may continue to work fairly normally. During the period of anxiety, there is tendency of Kali's mentality towards fixed repetitive thoughts which come and intrude upon the patient without control. We do not find Kali carb in fear rubric. Sixth is Lycopodium. Lycopodium loves power and is very intelligent on using his powers. The important characteristic feature of Lycopodium is that they are intellectually very keen, but they lack faith in their own abilities. This lack of self-confidence leads to fear of failure in them. Because of this fear of failure, Lycopodium suffers from anticipatory anxiety. They have a fear that they will make mistakes. They exhibit all signs of nervousness like dread of appearing in public, fear of undertaking anything, frightened at trifles, etc. They often find it difficult to express themselves and makes mistake with their words. Their nervousness is undisguised and often quite crippling. But in spite of being afraid of failure and anxiety, Lycopodium usually performs better than they expect. We also find Lycopodium in fear rubric. Seventh is Natrum carb. Natrum carb is generally conscientious. They are open with those they love and are able to express their affection. They prefer to give and has no difficulty in receiving. Natrum carb is healthy emotionally and there is less emotional suppression. Most are timid and nervous people who lack confidence and so they are more prone to anxiety. Natrum carb's anxiety is specially related to meeting people and socializing. They tend to feel uneasy in unfamiliar company, sometimes to the point of panic. They tend to worry about anything and everything. Anticipatory anxiety may be present in some of the natrum carbs. One of the anxiety that is very characteristic of natrum carb is anxiety of thunderstorms. During anxiety, they become restless and confused. Confusion of mind is followed by the inability to perform any mental labor. We also find natrum carb in fear rubric. Eighth is phosphorus. The essence running through phosphorus is a lack of personal boundaries. Phosphorus is like a sponge, absorbing all the impressions that are in the immediate environment and then expressing waves of emotions, both pleasant and unpleasant, which they produce. They are very sensitive to external impressions. To phosphorus, the world of intuitions and feelings are very alive and real, and this includes the feelings that exist in other people. It is phosphorus' extreme openness to external impression which makes him vulnerable to anxiety. Phosphorus is particularly prone to anxiety when he is under pressure, when he is excited, and when he is in new surroundings. Being alone at night or in dark is particularly likely to make phosphorus anxious. The presence of people helps to anchor their awareness in here and now and prevents them from fleeting off into imaginary terrors. Their fertile imagination will work overtime in the dark, due to which they see faces wherever they turn their eyes. Phosphorus has a fear of ghosts, spirits, and is more likely to believe in them. When phosphorus is going through an anxious period and if they experience any little symptom at that time, then this little symptom may evoke the fear of deadly disease in them. Another most important anxiety in phosphorus is an inexplicable dread that something terrible is going to happen. This is presumably a result of fearful imagination. At the time of anxiety, they are liable to invent problems which do not exist, or they will often magnify a small problem or threat out of all proportion. Under stress and anxiety, they tend to imagine the worst. Fortunately, their fears are easily dispelled by a little reassurance. Lacking boundaries themselves, they need someone else to protect them and to say that everything is alright. We also find phosphorus in fear rubric. So this is all about anxiety from psychological point of view and all the remedies that are most commonly found or used for prescription in homeopathy. If you have found value in this video, please like and share it with others. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so now. Please comment and provide your valuable feedback. Thanks for watching. Bye.